Oh boy.
Wait.
Here we are.
Are you?
We're here. We're here.
Okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's very dark.
Here we are filming a Kinstretch class for you at our usual time, but the atmosphere is dark like night. So not sure if that comes across on the camera, but we are certainly feeling maybe a little sleepier than usual, a little behind the 8 ball. But so glad that you carved out some time here to work on hip internal rotation today. So this is going to be a class requiring 2 blocks or pillows, just something to lay on, and then something also to help with reference points for your hips. It's going to be a really active opportunity to work on hip internal rotation, and sometimes that active component can actually be the missing link to help you get more range, and especially to help you start owning the range that you do have, so you can really kind of put it together with the rest of your movement. So make sure you have some floor space. We'll come up to standing at the end, but otherwise it'll be all on the ground. Let's go ahead and start out in a side lying position, and we'll just do a quick check-in with your hip car. But if you would, make sure your bottom thigh is in line with your torso. So you could straighten that leg out like Hannah's showing, or you could bend that bottom knee, but just so long as this bottom thigh is right in line with your torso, whatever feels right for you. Then brace your body, feel that stiffness in your torso. And then because we have this bottom leg out of the way, let's start with the top leg pressing down into the floor and really start to charge up your midsection tension through that pressure of the front leg. Once you clearly clock that sensation, start driving the knee up to the chest, trying to carry over that tension you had in your torso as you start reaching your shin towards the ceiling, keeping your hands heavy. When you hit your sticky point, start rotating that thigh to reach your heel behind you, but working hard to keep that knee nice and high. Scraping as far back as you can for some hip extension. And then as you drop your knee down, see if you can reach for the bottom leg and brush it through. As soon as it's clear of the bottom leg, keep going and make sure you hit the floor again. Keep going in this direction for a second pass. Taking your time, feeling for sensations that might be new or familiar, and just noting them. It's amazing how much can dissolve into the background and you stop noticing it, so always worthwhile to just feel those sensations that you're getting more familiar with. Next time your knee gets to the floor, pause there and check if you still have that midsection tension caused by pushing down into the mat or the floor. And then start going the opposite direction that you just started with. So driving your heel behind you into hip extension, reaching your shin again to the ceiling, noticing how it might be different to reach that way. To move this way through your car. As your knee reaches up to your chest, make sure your spine is not accommodating that motion, but is staying nice and still, nice and straight, and pass through for a second rep through hip extension. Good stuff. As you lift that shin, make sure you're reaching your ankle and your knee up to the ceiling. Looking for some extra contraction in your glute area. And keep those hands heavy all the way to the finish line, getting your knee back down to the floor. Nice. Okay. So relax here, take a little breath. We're going to stay on this side and actually take that block that you're not laying on, and you're going to place that between your thighs, and then again bring that bottom thigh into extension. So your bottom thigh is in line with your torso. There we go. Good. And then you might want to just get your your bottom ankle out of the way. Either bend that knee more or straighten that knee out so that we can do a little capsule rotation with this top hip, the one that you were just working on. So from here, again, turn on your brace. You can help yourself with heavy hand pressure. You could also help yourself get tension by squeezing that block nice and tight. And then once you have that tension lit up, start rotating your top leg so that your heel reaches to the ceiling, but your thigh just rotates. And then rotate the other way. Good. Now as you do this, I want you to scan for the sensations you can find in the back of your hip, but also in the side of your hip, sort of that front pocket area. If we were to do a little x-ray vision and look through the layers of tissue, in the deepest layers, we'd have some rotational tissue reaching from the back, kind of back pocket area, towards the front, towards your inner thigh. So that sort of rotational tissue is what lifts your ankle up to the ceiling. See if you can feel for that. Last 20 seconds here for your hip capsule car from this extension position. 10 more seconds. Can you charge up your body tension any more? The more we can prime at the beginning, the more you'll have access to when we get to work here in a moment. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Very nice. Okay, turn on over to the other side. And we will start again with hip cars, doing that full motion. Again, make sure the bottom thigh is out of the way so it's in an extension shape. Either straight leg or bent knee on that bottom leg's fine. And then brace your body through your hands, your torso, but also that top leg pressuring down into the floor in front of you. Yep, you might feel your inner thigh, your groin tissue turn on, but also your midsection. And then see if you can keep that midsection feeling going as you start driving your knee to your chest. Smoothly lifting your shin to the ceiling, like you're trying to open up your inner thigh to someone standing in front of you. And then reach that heel behind you, keeping the height of your knee as much as you can. Sweeping back. And as you keep reaching behind you, also start reaching for your bottom leg with that knee. And sweep through, touching the floor, and moving on for a second rep. Good stuff. Really make it your goal to have a clear sensation message coming from every angle of tissue that you're working. So every position of your leg should feel strong and stable, although it might not. There might be some blind spots. So go slow enough that you can try to fill in those gaps. You can try to reach for that sensation. As your knee settles in front of you, again, pause, brace, and reverse course. 2 reps going the other way. So you're definitely not just going through the motions, but you're feeling for sensation to let you know that you are truly traveling through your end range. Whatever's available for you on this day. Good. Don't sleep on those hands staying heavy. Use them as an anchor against which you're driving your leg. Sweeping that leg all the way around, working until your knee gets to the floor, and then consciously letting go of that tension. And then the block that you're not laying on, go ahead and place that between your thighs and sweep those thighs again into hip extension. Now just a note here, you want to get your thighs as far back as you can without extending through your lower back. Yeah, you can see Hannah's ribs flare. So you can place a hand on your waist or on your stomach to feel your midsection stay braced, and then try to sweep those legs behind you and just notice where they stop. Whatever that stopping point is, that's where you want to do your capsule car now. So squeeze your block, squeeze your midsection contraction muscles, and then start rotating that top thigh to check in on that internal rotation as your ankle goes up.
Much more exciting on this side.
Oh yeah, more sensation?
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay. So we talk a lot about blind spots, but of course there will also be spots that are the opposite of that are very accessible, and that gives you a good idea of how your body generally uses that tissue. So if you really feel a spot is very obvious in terms of sensation, it means that that's probably a route that your body uses quite a bit to move through the world and do your life. Also good information. So reaching your ankle to the ceiling. Also spend some effort reaching your ankle towards the floor. If you hit the floor, you can even push it into the floor and see what contractions you find there. Good. Give me 8 more seconds. Nice high intensity. Wringing out the rotation possibilities in your hip socket. 3, 2, 1, and relax. A little crampy?
Almost.
Yeah. So those spots that are more accessible, you'll probably feel more able to cramp them on command. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing, okay? So go ahead and come back kind of like you're going to be on your other side, but you're not going to go all the way to side lying. We're going to camp out in 90-90 now. And for this guy, Hannah, you can see Hannah's kind of turning to the side. So you can see we're going to be focusing on the trailing leg, trailing hip. And that means we can get the front knee out of the equation. So don't worry about that, that front leg too much. But you can just bend the knee. And then if that front knee is still floating off the ground, you could slip a pillow under it or a block, whatever you got there. Okay? And then from here, take a moment, place your hand on your pelvis, and turn that pelvis towards your front knee, and then back towards your back ankle. Okay? And just notice that we have this variable at play here. So what we're really working on, keep going back and forth, we're in that space where your thigh bone, your femur bone, meets your pelvis. So because of the nature of 90-90, we could either move the femur bone and work on internal rotation, or we could move the pelvis. We're actually going to do both today, but I just want you to feel that without moving the leg, you can still create some movement just by moving your pelvis. All right, so next time you turn your pelvis towards your front knee, go ahead, camp out there. Whatever lean that you need with your kickstand arm is great. You might even find, oh, I got to come down to my elbow to really feel confident and comfortable directing my pelvis towards that front knee. Okay, once you're there, we're going to just start to feel that same rotational contraction that we had in our capsule car. So see if you can feel that rotation. Maybe your back ankle comes off the ground, and then smoothly set it back down. Just start tuning into that. Try to get your ankle up off the floor. If you notice your body pitching forward at all to lift that back ankle, we don't want that. We just want to move through that back leg. So Hannah has quite a bit of control here. Hannah, show us what it would look like if you didn't have a lot of control, where you'd have to lean forward in order to get, yep. So go ahead and just walk your hand forward, lean. Yeah, so some of you might look like this in terms of getting your back ankle off the floor, and that's great. That means you've found your end range, okay? Now we want to specifically hone in on where is that spot where you're not able to lift any higher, and train right there. So this would be, you can see Hannah's spot here, yep, all right? And we're going to want to train that isometrically. When the foot is moving, it's not isometric. Isometric is a go nowhere contraction. So to get a feel for this really clearly, we need to either lean back a little bit. So Hannah would lean back, keep the pelvis facing forward. And she's got so much that this is a little bit awkward, but like for me, this would be perfect. I just lean back a little bit. Then when we contract like you're trying to lift your ankle, it doesn't go anywhere until you actually lean your body. So that's what we're getting after. But for some of you who have more rotation, you'll want to prop your back ankle up. So that's what we're going to do for Hannah here. Okay. So brace your body. And if you found the right spot, you should feel like you're sending the signal to lift your back ankle, but it's not able to move. Turn that up as hot as you can, a near cramp or maybe flirting with a full cramp, and then keep that effort going and slowly start leaning forward until your foot is off the floor or off the block, and you're holding this. 5, 4, 3, 2, then like a parachute, lower that ankle down back to its resting place, okay? Each time as you set up, start by directing your pelvis to face your front knee. Brace your body with some good tension. Start trying to make that back ankle light. And then once you're confident that it's as hot a contraction as you can find, pitch your body forward just enough to clear that block. While you're holding here, you're fighting to lift that ankle further away from the block or further away from the floor. 3, 2, 1, slowly melt it down, okay? This should start making more and more sense here. We're going to do one more set on this hip for now. Turn your pelvis, brace your body, start asking for that rotational effort on the back leg. When you're sure it's as hot a contraction as possible, start leaning forward just enough to clear the block and hold it. Don't let your body keep moving forward. We want to find just that spot where you're clearing the block. 3, 2, 1, and slowly melt it down. Excellent. All right, let's give that leg a break. Turn around, get your other 90-90 set up.
Yes, let's.
Yeah, Hannah's in favor of a little break for the back hip. Okay. So just a note about cramping. This is a direct route to Cramp City, as we like to say. But if you are full on cramping your hip, meaning it locks up Charlie horse style middle of the night, we don't want to train that because now you're not actually training. The tissue is just completely tetanizing. It's completely blocked up. So that's why we always use this term like flirting with the cramp. It's funny, but it's also really accurate. Like we want to go right up to that full cramp and then work there so that your brain is gradually getting better and better at doing that. So just a note if you were feeling some cramps on that last hip. All right, so start here, pelvis faces towards your front knee, and just start rotating that back thigh so that you're getting your ankle off the ground. And remember, as we're starting, we actually do want the ankle to move. If you're not getting any movement, you're going to have to lean your body forward a bit or to the side and find a little bit of rotation. Good. Okay, now to help you use a block again, go ahead and just walk this hand forward a little bit. Yep, and then there we go. Okay, so now we're seeing that block height off the ground. Again, you don't need to pitch forward and get that much height. If you're getting just a little lift off the floor, you can work there too. Okay, so once you've gotten those tissues warmed up, go ahead, prop yourself if you're using the block. And then we're doing 3 10-second passive range holds. So brace your body, make sure your pelvis is square ahead, rotate that back thigh like you're trying to lift it away from the block, and then lean your body forward, bringing your ankle with you. 10 seconds here. Good. Breathing, but staying maximally contracted. 2, 1, smoothly set it down. Good. Brace again. Pelvis is square ahead. Start feeling that rotation through the back leg, and then lean forward just enough to lose your support under that back ankle. Holding, trying to add rotation. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Melt it down. Good. Okay. Last rep here on this leg. Brace your body. Start trying to rotate that back ankle up off the block, but then it only moves once you move the rest of your body and it comes with you. Hold this position. Keep trying to chase the ankle away from the block. It'll get harder and harder as you get fatigued. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Nice job, okay? So this should start to be making more and more sense. Let's go back to the first side. Okay, now we're going to add on here in the sense that now we're not just going to play with the ankle coming away from the floor, but we're actually going to try to get that back knee clear of the floor. So whereas Hannah was leaning forward last time to bring the ankle with you, or with her, this time she's going to lean forward but also to the side so that the whole leg comes with her body. This is much more contraction, much more tissue, but if you were training maximally in that last set, it should feel pretty similar in terms of your prep, your torso tension. So again, face your pelvis forward towards that front knee. If you were blocking your ankle on the last set, you can keep blocking it. And then turn on that rotation again, like you're trying to make your ankle light. Before you move, also think about lifting your knee off the floor. What would it take to clear that knee off the ground? This should recruit more tissue in the side of your hip. When you're confident you're at maximum effort, start leaning more out to the side, bending your elbow or walking that hand out until the leg is clear. Just fingers width or credit card swipe is fine. 5, 4, 3, control it on the way down, slowly lower. Good. So you can really get a feel for exactly where your active range of motion ends here. So as you're setting up again, find that squared up position with your ankle or your hip facing your front knee.
You might feel your leg try to travel forward, so I'm just sticking this block here.
Okay, so if you want to have a little reference point of the another block or a pillow in front of your thigh to help you, you really want to clarify just the motion that we're trying to train here. Okay, so think rotation as you turn on your brace, then also think making the knee light. What would it take to actually lift the knee off the ground from here? And then as you bend that kickstand arm, you'll bring the whole leg off the ground and hold it here. Trying your darndest to lift that shin up higher to the side. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Good. One more take on this side. Again, making sure your pelvis is faced towards that front knee. It's going to try to turn on you. Brace. Ankle gets light first, then the knee gets light, Then you bring the whole leg with you as you bend that kickstand arm. Hold this position. Feeling a maximum effort contraction through your whole body. 4, 3, spend more, team. Come on, 2, 1, and melt it down. Excellent job. All right, let that leg rest again. Let's go back to the other side.
Yeah.
Nice work. Good. Okay. So as you set up on this other side, noting that it might be different, make sure you can turn your pelvis square towards that front knee. Make sure the back leg feels right near its end range of active motion, meaning that if you tried to lift your back ankle off the floor or off the block here, you shouldn't be able to, okay? Then brace your body, start making that back ankle light feeling, even as it stays on the block. Add to that the knee feeling light, and then start bending your kickstand arm so that your whole leg comes with you. Note that you might need to lean more than you're seeing Hannah lean. That's okay. 4, 3, 2, keep your body still and just let that leg down. And then you'll feel as your body comes up, oh, okay, I'm going back into a range of motion that I'm not able to hold the leg from. So we're going right back and forth over that borderline. Okay, pelvis faces ahead. Back ankle gets light as you turn your brace on. Knee gets light. And then bring that whole leg with you as you bend your kickstand arm. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Spending all the effort that you can to keep that leg from falling. 3, 2, 1. Melt it down. Very nice. Final rep on this side. Showing a different angle.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Brace your body here. Turn it on first. Then use that to make your back ankle light, your back knee light, and then bring the leg with you as you bend your kickstand arm. Holding this position, trying to actively lift your back leg higher away from the block. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Okay, very nice. So as you transition back to the first 90-90 side, we're now going to move into a little bit more of a passive stretch and really start training your end range of motion that you can access passively, that you're able to just stretch into. And this is just a great moment as we get into this stretch to really consider the gap or the difference between your active range of motion, what your brain knows that you are able to access, and your passive range of motion, what your body is able to find passively using gravity, or in this case, the floor, okay? So keep that in mind. Start in 90-90 just like you were before. No need for a block on the back leg if you were using that, because now, like I was saying, we're gonna rotate the pelvis rather than the leg and use that to find our end range. So start turning your belt buckle or your pelvis towards that back leg. Make sure that you're not letting your spine dump into too much flexion, but you're mostly just turning from that space where your femur bone meets your pelvis, okay? See if you can really clarify that for yourself in terms of the sensation that you're finding. And when you get here, this is a weird stretch feeling. It's not like the obvious stretch you might get in your hamstrings or in your calf. This is a rotational stretch. So Hannah, would you just indicate where you're feeling this stretch?
So I feel a little bit like deep in this part, and then I also feel a little bit deep in here.
Yeah, and I think the key point there is deep, because this is really twisting your whole hip socket. So you might feel it, more down this way or more right under your sits bone. That's all fair game, so long as you're looking for a deep stretch. If you don't feel a deep stretch, that's okay. It might mean that you just need to spend a little more time in this stretch, or possibly from working with us that you need more internal rotation. So if that's the case, we invite you to just pause your video right now and spend maybe 1, 2, or even 3 minutes until you feel like you've gotten maybe just a little bit deeper in terms of your sensation, all right? It really is a go-by-feel moment, all right? So if you're not pausing and holding for a passive stretch, we're just taking a few breaths to let the nervous system relax into this end range position. And then we're again train isometrically, but with no movement of the body either, Okay, so these are your PAILs rails. So brace your body, start turning up that midsection tension, maybe by thinking hands heavier into the floor, and then start directing that effort into rotating your ankle to get heavier into the floor. So you can see the rotation I'm indicating on Hannah's leg. That's the rotation you're going to try to turn up here. Gradually ramp this effort up, making your ankle heavier. If you start to feel that your knee is trying to reach off the floor, make sure that knee is pressing down as well. So you're trying to sweep the whole floor forward, bring it up to a 60% effort, 80% effort, and actually all the way up to your greatest safe effort for 10 seconds. If the floor wasn't very strong, you would be driving your whole knee, shin, and ankle through it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax that effort. As you relax, you might notice that you can turn your pelvis more towards that back leg, wind up more rotation, but still looking for just a gentle sort of positive feeling. What am I going for? A satisfying stretch feeling, not a scary stretch feeling. Okay. Now instead of rotating to make your leg heavier, now we're going to do the rails contraction. So start thinking, just like we were doing earlier, about making your ankle lighter. And hopefully this should feel kind of familiar to the work that we were doing with our passive range holds. Add to that the feeling of your knee getting a little lighter. Nothing's moving. And then finally add to this the feeling that you're trying to turn your pelvis more towards that back leg. Like you're actively trying to wind yourself up into more rotation and pull yourself into more stretch. Spend 10 more seconds fighting for a maximum effort turn of your pelvis towards that back leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, and melt it down. Good. Okay, we're just going to go one more round through this back leg. 20 seconds of breathing and stretching, which you're doing now. Nice full inhales and even longer exhales. Just letting your body relax. All right.
I think it's worth saying that the hip internal rotation capsule stretch doesn't other stretches.
Compared to other stretches, I really think it's subjective though. I think some people, like I can say for myself, there are times where the hip internal rotation stretch feels very relieving, really, you know, something like my body really wants. But you're totally right, especially if this is new for you. It can almost feel a little like, what is going on? These are some delicate tissue. So go by feel, take it one step at a time. All right, so your second PAILs contraction here. Very light at first. Start making your ankle heavier, your knee heavier, and feel that this heaviness is the result of trying to rotate your thigh. Okay? Really recruiting those deep tissues in your hip, and then as you ramp up the tension to 40% effort, starting to recruit more muscles around the hip. As you continue building that heaviness up to 60% effort, feel even muscles in your inner thigh, maybe in your hamstring, maybe in your abs starting to turn on. And then let that light of tension start to grow out through your whole body, like your whole body is getting brighter and brighter, up to 80% effort, and all the way to your greatest safe effort. Maybe that's 92%, maybe that's 100%, maybe this feels like 105%. That's good stuff. 5, 4, 3, 2, keep your tension, and let's switch right over to that opposite rotation. Try to make your ankle light, try to lift your knee off the floor, but mostly use those directions to try to turn your body more towards that back leg. 10 seconds of maximum effort here. You can see Hannah is working hard, trying to pull into more. 3, 2, 1, and roll. Okay? Now just a quick note, that rail sensation that you were just feeling, that's exactly what you were turning on with your passive range holds. It just, we weren't moving the body to then move the leg. Okay, so if those seem familiar, you're right on. All right, let's go ahead and gently get out of that position and move into the other side. Whenever we work at that end range, it's a little trippy to your nervous system, which is why we're going to do some wrap-up work here in a moment so we don't leave you just with that kind of wobbly leg feeling.
Wobble leg.
So on this side, you're setting up in 90-90. You're leaning way over so that you have plenty of room in the hip, no pinching going on, to start turning your pelvis towards that back leg. All right. Once you feel like you get near your end range, just check in on your spine. Is your spine rounding like this? We don't want that so much. We want to be moving a bit lower, below the pelvis, where that femur bone meets the hip socket. Okay? And then from this position, settling into your stretch, breathing deeply and exhaling for an even longer exhale than your inhale. This is the chance, if you need more passive stretch time, to hit pause on the video, camp out until you notice a change in your hip, and then you can just press play again, and we'll get into your isometrics. Okay. So take one more breath to be sure, yes, this is as much as I can rotate my hip. So you're sure you're at your end range. Now from here, with a very light amount of effort at first, start your PAILs contraction, feeling the rotation of your back thigh, gradually making your back ankle heavier into the floor. As you ramp that up through 20%, 30%, up to 40%, notice that it requires a little effort to keep your knee heavy into the floor as well. Start using both of those points of contact to imagine that you're trying to sweep your leg through the ground. Up to 60% effort, feeling that other muscles are starting to get recruited. Maybe you start feeling your arms are working harder, your abs, obviously the muscles around that hip, but maybe some muscles in your other leg as well. Bring this up to 80% effort. And then smoothly continue building to what feels like your greatest safe feeling effort. As you find that spot, hold it. Don't let up on that effort. Really try to sweep your leg through the ground. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Melt it down. Good. Nice. And then start switching over to the opposite rotation, trying to make your back ankle light, but that's just a way for you to feel the rotation that we're after through the thigh. So if you can lock into that rotation, that's probably even a little bit more accurate to what we're after. Really try to feel that rotation ramping up to your greatest safe effort. Thinking light ankle, light shin, light knee, and then add on to that, trying to turn your belt buckle more towards that back leg. Trying to wind yourself up into a deeper stretch position. Hold this 10 seconds. Actively rotating your hip to its deepest stretch. 3, 2, 1. Melt it down. Good. Both of those efforts might feel like you can get now deeper into the stretch. Okay. Now just a comment. Anytime we're training, for example, the hip and the rest of your body is talking loud to you, please take that as a guide to either prop yourself up or to ask us, how can I prop myself up because I'm getting distracted by like hips or wrists or shoulders or whatnot. So for this setup, I love the couch as a nice little lean to lean your shoulders against, or a chair, but there are many other options as well. So never feel like for you to get a good hip internal rotation stretch, you have to beat up your wrist, because that's just not the case. Just might take some time to find the right setup for you. All right, I'll shut up now so we can get into our second round of PAILs rails. Start rotating that back leg to make the ankle and knee heavier. Go slow, as if you're one of your hip tissues to the party. Ramping it up through 40% effort, 60% effort, 80% effort, not letting that back knee sneak away from the ground. And finally, up to your greatest safe effort. This should feel like your whole body is a statue of tension and stiffness directed at trying to drive that back leg through the floor. 4, 3, 2, keep all this effort going and switch over to a rails contraction. Rotating your back thigh now the opposite direction. Try to make your ankle light, your knee light, and pull your pelvis to face your back leg even more. Really trying to turn for 5, 4, 3, 2, and melt it down. Good. Just take a breath here once you're relaxed and feel, this is maybe a new sensation, or this end range position feels a little different than when we started. That's what this is all about, trying to gradually increase the range and the set of options that your hip has. Okay? So make your way out of this setup here. And I think we're going to go back to side lying here for a moment. So back to your first side where your top leg is going to be the focus. And we're going to place that block again between your thighs. And again, sweep those thighs behind you into hip extension. Make sure the bottom ankle's out of the way. Either kick that leg straight or bend the knee out. Okay, and then brace your body, squeeze the block, and start rotating this top leg back and forth. Just 30 seconds here. Yeah, might get some snaps and cracks. Hannah's hips pop quite a bit. Okay, and that's totally safe so long as there's no pain. Keep rotating. Make sure that that effort you're putting into the rotation of your thigh is not translating up into your pelvis or your spine, but you're staying still up there. 15 more seconds, really trying to rotate that axle of your femur bone. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Good. And over to the other side. This is just a really good opportunity for your brain to get up to date in terms of what's possible at the hip. So block between your thighs, thighs sweep into hip extension, bottom leg gets out of the way, and then brace your body tight, squeeze that block, and start rotating your top thigh, finding as much rotation as possible. Yeah, left side's a bit more than the right side, huh, Hannah?
I guess.
Good. Really finding a complete stop. Anytime we do a capsule rotation on any joint, you don't want to just wiggle the arm or the leg back and forth in terms of rotation. You really want to find a full and complete effort into the end range, and then reverse that and find the full and complete effort and stop at the other end. In this case, when your foot hits the floor, that might be the stop. Push into that stop too. Whereas when the ankle goes up to the ceiling, you'll stop when your hip socket stops, and that's where we want to train to. Good. 5 more seconds here. Squeezing that block. And relax it. Nice. Okay. We will get back to side lying in a moment to finish up, but come up to standing here. Always want to give you that opportunity to plug this motion into your full range of motion kind of demands through your day. So find a nice solid standing position for your squat. So you want your feet maybe about shoulder width, a bit wider than your hips at least, and then turn your toes out just the amount that feels comfortable. And then feel for a second that your whole footprint is on the floor. So sometimes we tend to lean onto our forefeet or onto our heels, but take this moment to feel your balance point is right in the middle of your foot. Okay? Once you feel confident with that solid footprint, you're going to keep that footprint just like that as we start to move down into your squat. So imagine you're sitting down to a bench right between your feet, and you're going as low as your body will allow until you find a complete stop, and then push the ground away to come back up. Okay? So we're just going to spend 1 minute here finding where your end range of motion might stop. Now it's very tempting to try to make your body look like Hannah's body here, but I really want to encourage you to tune inwards and feel, where does it feel like you lose your strength or you lose your stability? And that's where you're doing your hold. You come down, find a hold, come right back up. Maybe your knee is talking to you and saying, no further. Maybe your ankle is stiff and saying, can't go any further than that. Maybe your back is talking to you. Whatever part of your body is giving you that information, you want to honor the information it's giving you. So really tune into it. Keep those footprints solid and stable. And just find a little pause here, 20 more seconds. You can see Hannah's moving with nice controlled pace so that she can really tune into where is her stopping point. And then pushing the ground away and make your way up to standing. Very nice. Okay, shake it out for a moment. So every time you squat, your hip socket has to internally rotate. So that gives you an idea of, we trained hip internal rotation, then we apply it here. Let's try to turn it up just a little bit more into what we say kinetic stretch for your squat. So when you're dropping down, gravity's helping you, but we also want to recruit the active effort. So that would be on the front of the hip crease, trying to feel there. Maybe the back of the knee, that's kind of a weird one, but that's an area that's a joint that's closing as well. And then I think potentially the most important one, is the front of the ankles, really pulling your knee forward over your toes, keeping those footprints solid. So we'll go slow. We're going to do maybe just a few reps over this minute, but brace at the top, and then very slowly start bending at your hips, bending at your knees, and bending at your ankles, and feel, can you pull your shin forward actively? Can you bend your knee actively? And finally, can you try to pull your thigh to your stomach actively? When you stop being able to do those things, you should find a complete stop, pause, and now focus on how heavy you can make your feet into the floor to slowly push the earth away. That slow pressure should help you feel that you're actually using your quads, your glutes, your calves, every part of your leg and hip to push the ground away. All right? We'll do a few more reps here. So brace, start pulling yourself down, feeling thighs pulling towards your torso, shins and toes pulling towards each other. Maybe even trying to close the back of your knee, butt to ankles. When you get to your bottom position, make your feet extra heavy and smoothly push the earth away. Okay? All these cues are really about trying to get as much muscle tissue involved as possible. So final rep here, start your descent, pulling yourself into it, and use as much tissue as you can feel. Make it active. Pull yourself to a complete stop. Feel that stop and switch to pushing the ground away as you start to rise back up. Good. Okay? So these squats are not about being as efficient as possible and getting a lot done. This is about using as much tissue as possible and really training. Okay, finish up on side lying position here. And whatever leg position you'd like now, because we're just going to do 1 minute of hip cars, tick-tocking back and forth to finish things up. So brace your body, and then start up your hip car, knee to chest, smoothly moving through. Don't worry about getting a huge training effect or trying to train your body hard. This moment is about letting your brain come up to speed with the training that you just did. So that's, 50 or 60% effort is appropriate, and a full awareness of what's going on at your hip. Good. Back and forth here, 30 more seconds, driving that knee back into flexion, hip flexion, and then shin to the ceiling. And sweeping all the way around. When your knee gets back in front of you again, sweep it backwards to tick-tock that rep. Good. Remember, the goal is to have a controlled sense of sensation at every angle that you're able to get into. So you're scanning for blind spots, You're trying to make those blind spots less blind. All right, and wrap up where. Switch over to the other side. Brace your body. And then start up, knee to chest. Make sure you're not using a maximum effort here. That might sound weird for us to say, but the point is that if you're not using a max effort, you have a bit more brain space to spend on being aware. And that's really the goal for this wrap-up car. As your knee comes back in front of you, tick-tock back the other way. Good stuff. Sweeping it all the way around. And then one more rep, 30 more seconds to go. Noticing where or when your spine might try to move, when your pelvis might try to move, and locking that down. Remember, we don't want anything to move except for that top leg. Good. Good stuff. 5 more seconds. And wherever you might find yourself, you can relax. Nice job, team. Good work with some hip active control through internal rotation. Again, please let us know questions, because particularly for the passive range work for hip internal rotation, the setups can feel a little wonky as you do get into them. So hit us up with questions, and we'll see you soon.